Okay. All right, well, it's 6:10, and I will call this meeting of the Village Board of Trustees to order. We're a little delayed in getting everything set up here, but we'll begin now by rising and saying the national anthem. Sorry. Not the national anthem, sorry. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we will begin with mayoral appointments, and we have a few. I'm going to turn to the village administrator, Scott Russell, to go through those, please.
Resolved that Mayor Manger appoints and the Board of Trustees approves Jamie Brown to be appointed to the position of Maintenance Mechanic 1 of the Parks Department at a salary of $52,385.48, and that would be effective Friday, May 9, 2025.
I will make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Resolved that the mayor and the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the resignation of Luke Farron as a member and as a chairman of the Southampton Village Board of Appeals, effective May 3, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Resolved that Mayor Manger appoints and the Board of Trustees approves Oren Glick to be appointed as a member of the Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals effective May 8, 2025 to fulfill the unexpired term of Luke Farron expiring June 30, 2028.
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, Mayor Manger appoints and the Board of Trustees approves Carol Zacharias to serve as the chairwoman of the Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals effective May 8, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, Mayor Manger appoints and the Board of Trustees approves Guadalupe Vargas to be appointed to the position of Student Intern 2 in the Tax Receiver's Office at an hourly rate of $27 per hour, effective May 20, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Second it.
Discussion. He's been coming in as a student helper actually for now, I think, 2 years, and he comes during his Christmas or winter vacation time as well. So I think he's looking forward to coming back this summer, and he certainly is a great help getting our taxes out that we have to get out at the end of this month for next month. So with that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Resolved that the mayor appoints and the Board of Trustees approves Megan Sweeney to be appointed to the position of part-time grant archivist at an hourly rate of $27, effective May 16, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion. So this is, again, to get help with the grant that we received to actually put all of our records into digital format. And so she will be coming in, as you see at this, as a part-time hourly assistant to help with that work. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Resolved that the mayor appoints and the Board of Trustees approves Matthew Weeks to the position of beach manager at Cooper's Beach at a salary of $28,500, effective May 16, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
A discussion. So Matthew Weeks has been the beach manager at Cooper's for several years now. He does an excellent job. He's a wonderful leader and does very well with not only the lifeguards but the booth attendants as well as the beach attendants. And he just does a great job. So we're very happy to have him back. He's a teacher during the winter months, and what's great is he's able then to do this during the summer months and, again, lead that operation, which, as you can see following, has quite a few employees. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the hiring of the 2025 Cooper's Beach staff effective May 16, 2025. Lifeguards, hourly salary is based on tenure. Head lifeguards, David Nichols at $33 an hour, Michael Purcell at $32 an hour. Lifeguards, Michelle Cardo, $29 an hour. Emmett Wetter, $25 an hour. William Malone, $24 an hour. Griffin Schwartz, $24 an hour. Patrick Matthews, $23.50 per hour. Georgiana Gavalis, at $22 an hour. Gavin Johnston at $22 an hour. Chad Kilmer at $22 an hour. Johan Montero at $21.50 per hour. Isabel Palumbo, $21.50 an hour. Ralph Bayel at $21 an hour. Hudson Fox Bathan at $21 an hour. Joseph Zimbler at $21 an hour. And Will Salonetti at $20 an hour. Booth attendants, Allison Booth, $21 an hour. Booth attendants, Nellie Nikolova at $20 an hour. Emerson Greenwald at $19 an hour. Jenna Domenico at $19.50 an hour. Ava Farr at $19.50 an hour. Kate Johnston at $19 an hour. Beach attendants, Assistant Manager Max Greenwald at $19 an hour. Beach attendants, $17 hourly. Nicholas Alamania. Alexander Barber, Alexander Franklin, James Garvin, Julius Latinizio, and Daniel Palumbo, Andrew Wetter.
And yeah, it's Nathaniel Barber. So I'll make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we're going to have a board presentation for N by Organic, presented by Frank Piccinini and Marshall Brown. And this is a follow-up to a previous
presentation.
but just wanted you to update us now on where you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Mayor Manger, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Frank Piccinini. I'm the CEO of the newly branded Spadefoot Ecosystem Solutions. And we're excited to talk to you a little bit about, I should say, briefly review the technology, give you a little bit of an update on some of the permitting issues, or I should say positive permitting developments, and just be here to answer any questions that may have come up since the last time we met here. So just to review what the issue is, we have water quality issues across Long Island, the village of Southampton not being the exception. And we, at this point, we pretty much know what the issue is, right? We have from the watershed area, fertilizer input, we have wastewater input, and at any given time, nitrogen's literally falling out of the sky, especially when it's raining. It's called deposition. A lot of that is ending up in our water bodies. Historically, we had forests to kind of soak up a lot of these nutrients, but now we don't have as much of this natural infrastructure. So unfortunately, what we're left with over the course of the last 60 years is the buildup of organic matter, just the muck at the bottom of the pond. And this muck creates basically fuel for a lot of the problems that are impacting our waterways. Harmful algal blooms being an example, is a symptom of all of the overload of nutrients. So we've known for a really long time that bacillus bacteria eats muck, right? And so what they've been doing since really like the 60s or so is taking buckets of bacillus bacteria and just dumping it into waters to help it eat the muck. And so if you have a koi pond, let's say that you overfed your fish and there's a bunch of muck at the bottom of your koi pond, you could buy a bucket of bugs and dump it into the koi pond, and it would do a really good job at eating the muck, and your koi fish would be very happy. But if you think about a water body like Old Town Pond, which is 10.3 acres, can you imagine how many buckets you would need to actually have an environmental impact and to remediate this issue? So the folks at M Bioorganic and Spadefoot Ecosystem Solutions is the exclusive licensee of M Bioorganic in New York State, have developed this really ingenious incubation mechanism. So essentially all we do is pull water out of the pond, add it into our holding tank, an incubator, drip a tiny bit, literally an IV drip of bacteria into our incubator. It's set at a nice temperature that makes the bacteria very happy. And so in 20 minutes, we have effectively 20 gallons of bacteria. And so if you do the math, that means about $75,000 worth of buckets of bugs to be discharged into a water body in a given day. And so these bugs go to town on the muck at the bottom of the pond. They eat it. They are self-limiting in the sense that if all of this organic matter kind of gets chewed away, they turn into spores, and they kind of rest there in the sediment, waiting for an influx of nutrients to come again. And so it's a really exciting proposition. You have pictures in your packets of some of the updates from upon our pilot project at Sands Point Preserve, which is in just north of Manhasset in Nassau County. And we've been operating there since last August. And I'll tell you, it is incredible what has happened at Sands Point Preserve. The water clarity is better. We have way less muck. In 3 months' time, it took out something like I think it was 1,400 cubic yards of sediment, all just vented back into the atmosphere the way it needs to be. So we're happy and excited to partner with the village. And so we have been working really hard with the DEC, with the permitting authorities, to get the requisite permission to hopefully do a project at Old Town Pond. And so just to update you on the permitting status, it took a while to get their attention, but once we finally did, they started to really see the potential here. And it seems that the state is actually pretty excited about this at this point. So first of all, the big hurdle that we surmounted was that we had an affirmative response from the DEC that we do not need a pesticides permit. We are not a pesticide. We don't kill anything. We're just, putting the ecosystem back into balance. And the DEC saw this, and after some, discussion, gave us an affirmative response that we don't need this permit, which was a major hurdle that we passed. There's a couple other permits that we need. We need a freshwater wetlands permit, but that's on the way, and we need a SPEDIES permit. It stands for the State Pollution Discharge Elimination System. Probably, I know the village has the general permit for any of the outfalls that you folks have. Yeah. So we have to get a SPEDIES permit. So we have a laundry list of things that we're doing on behalf of the village to get the SPEDIES permit in order. The state has been extremely helpful in this, and so if you've ever seen the requirements for getting a SPEDIES permit, they sent me like a 5-page document, but they've been very gracious in helping us work through it. Some of the requirements just don't apply to the work that we're doing because we're not discharging any pollutants. So they've been very gracious about waiving certain requirements. So we're working through that, and we're getting very close on that. And then, of course, we need the village and to get through SECRA, and that's part of the point tonight. So with that, and just to keep this brief, I'm happy to take any questions from the board or from any of the public if deemed appropriate.
Yeah, as we were discussing earlier, I'm somewhat aware of similar technology that's used to remediate brownfields.
Yep.
Oil tank, oil spills. Is this similar in terms of what you're doing? And is the permitting process the same for that kind of work?
Yeah, it's a good question about the permitting process because what I found with the DEC is that it's neither fish nor fowl. So there's no there's no good place for it to go. Yeah. And so that's kind of why I was like a little bit orphaned. So permitting, I'll just have to make some inquiries in that regard for remediation. Yeah. But I'll tell you that right now the company Enbioorganic is taking on a massive plume in Canada right now, a petroleum plume. Oh. So they're actively doing this. They have a similar product called MICP. It's like microbial induced calcite precipitation. Basically, it's a way to cap landfills and stuff. They've actually done some piloting testing where the military shot artillery at this concrete that they developed with microbes, and it held up. And so they're working, I can't tell you where, but they're working at a very high-profile site capping ash residue. Fly ash. Thank you, Marshall.
The company that started this technology, Enbioorganic, are they local or are they?
So it's a U.S. company. Their proprietors are sort of scattered through the wind, as it were. There's a PhD microbiologist who is up in Canada currently. There's a grizzled chemical engineer who's got 40 years of experience in working with wastewater treatment plants. In fact, that's where this Enbioorganic actually cut its teeth. It's actually primarily used now for treating wastewater. And so the surface water is something that we're kind of taking hold with here locally and really running with. But the chemical engineers in Alabama, I think, a couple other folks, they're around, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Frank, I may have misheard you, but I thought you said that after the bacteria grows in your incubator,
Yep.
that you release $75,000 worth of bacteria a day.
If-
Well, it works this way.
Well, you have to stand up to the microphone, Marshall, because otherwise it won't be captured
sure.
on
Okay.
the recording.
So if you were to buy a gallon of bugs in a jug, that would cost around $50. What Frank was trying to say was in the course of a day, we're releasing 75,000.
So it's not like
Gallons.
the cost of the program is
Well,
$75,000 a day.
Actually, it really comes out to like 17 cents a gallon with our platform, so it's
Okay.
vastly cheaper.
And is there any sense of what the cost would be to treat Old Town Pond?
Yeah, so thanks, Mark. So it's $377,000. I don't have the number in front of me, but that includes a very rigorous monitoring protocol as well.
Which is expensive, and I think Trustee Simeone has a question.
Yeah,
Yes,
these are bacteria, and I'm sure they're harmless, but maybe you want to explain what kind of bacteria and the fact that they are harmless, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think so these are ubiquitous bacteria. They can be, so this is bacillus, right? And so these are, if I took a soil from right outside, I'd be able to culture from it. We can culture it from your intestines. They're on your skin. They're literally in the air around us. And so the reason why, I think a great follow-up question to that is, if they're so ubiquitous and they're so good at eating the muck, why do we have to discharge them into the pond? And frankly, it's because of our land use practices, right? So in nature's way of producing these bacillus bacteria is having symbiosis with the trees, right? So the trees and the mycorrhizal fungi, they have like this symbiosis. It's actually a tripartite symbiosis. So without going too deep into the weeds here, literally, in nature, what happens whenever you have a pulse of stormwater coming through a forest, also coming with it is a pulse of bacillus bacteria. But when it's, the pond is surrounded by, well, not a forest, there's no longer this natural source of the bacillus, so that's why we have to augment in the way that we do. But these bacteria are beneficial. They're biosafety level 1, so they're not at all. They're non-pathogenic. They're non-GMO and certified organic. I just learned. So these are very beneficial critters that we should be having in our water bodies. We just don't because of our land use practices.
What is the time frame for Old Town Pond to remediate it?
Yeah, so that's the $1 million question, right? But we just keep in mind that it's taken easily 60, 70 years to get to the point that it is. Mm-hmm. I think that we see meaningful water quality results within the first, measurable within the first couple months. It's going to take a little bit longer for the bugs to kind of work its way into the muck. I think if we stick through it in the first 2 years, we're going to have a very healthy pond system. And hopefully it buys the village time to kind of address the watershed issues that are causing this input of nutrients.
Thank
Your proposal is a 2-year proposal, so that number you gave the board is over the course of 2 years.
Over the course of 2 years.
Thank you.
And I've been asked, by the way, to break it out into payments. And for this application, for this project, if for whatever reason the village decides to stop, we just kind of pull the plug and that's it. There's no capital, expenditures. It's just it's a service it's a subscription almost.
The
Yes.
initial investment, though, is about $75,000 or $78,000, right?
That's right. That'll
And
get
then
us
after
through.
that, it's monthly over the course of the following. That's for the first 6 months?
That's
About-
for
and
about
then-
the first 6 months.
Yeah, and then it's monthly after that.
That's right.
So Frank, what is the size of the body of water in Nassau County where this has already been applied?
It's about an acre.
So obviously this is now 10 times as big.
Yep.
And I'm not sure what the depth of the muck is at the bottom of Old Town Pond. I don't know if you know what that is.
I think it's between 1 and 4 feet, depending on where you are. In the middle, it's deeper.
So the question obviously is, will this be efficacious on a 10-acre lake with up to 4 feet of muck at the bottom of it?
I think-
And again, what is the time frame? Because we may notice something in the first year, but, you know, if this is something that has to go on for, say, 70 years to get it cleaned up, I'm just curious, what is the time frame for a body of water that's 10 times as large as what you've already done in Nassau County?
So we're actually going to bring 2 units for Old Town Pond. For Sands Point, it was just 1 unit. And we're going to have basically a big drip irrigation system, essentially, out into the pond, floating 18 to 20 inches below the water surface. And so we're going to distribute it very well. Look, it cleaned up Sands Point Preserve in a matter of months. So, you know, I'm very confident that you'll see very measurable water quality benefits within the first couple months, and it's going to really start working on the muck soon. And just keep in mind that the bugs are not going to go away, right? So even if we pull the plug, they're going to keep multiplying within the pond, you know, as well. So, look, it's hard for me to say yes, we'll get rid of 4 feet of muck within X period of time, because there's a lot of assumptions that I don't have the answer to, namely, what is the loading rates, right? And so you have all these lawns and wastewater systems that are kind of continuously feeding the pond. So this is something that can ameliorate the symptoms of the water quality impairments while the village keeps on doing its work for these watershed issues and cutting down the rates. So I'm, you know, not trying to be cagey. It's just there's a lot of variables here, but I think we're gonna. I guess Marshall is more.
Sure.
I want to add a data point here. I brought a camera crew down to Nashville, Tennessee, to Tennessee State University, where they were treating a 60-acre lagoon there, and they just had the 1 unit, and from 1 year to the next, it was remarkable. And I mean, seeing is believing, even with all the data. So I'd say we're not concerned about the size of Old Town Pond. We got the drip hoses, we got step-up tanks. We're going in with a couple units, and you know, I'd say we could also course correct as we start to get the data in, move the hoses, that sort of thing.
And at Sands Point, and maybe down in Tennessee, then I mean, when you look at quantify the data, there really is a significant difference.
Absolutely, yeah. The level of microsystem, the toxin in the sediment.
I think you supplied some of that information. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, because I think it's obviously important for us to look at what the data shows.
Sure. So we certainly supplied the data from Sands Point. Also supplied some data from the Tennessee thing. And keep in mind these horrible literal poisons that the harmful algal blooms exude, microcystine and saxitoxin, all that. That's all organic matter. So the bugs actually go after the poisons too. In the lake, you know, again, we're not killing any of the algae. We're just going after the organic matter. But the byproduct of the algal blooms is organic matter. It's just something that's toxic. You know, so the data points are there. I'll give you another data point. As I mentioned, it's very similar, Sands Point Preserve to Old Town Pond, and really it's just any water body on Long Island is effectively an above ground expression of the aquifer, right? It's just the aquifer kind of bubbling up. And so at Sands Point Preserve, the only difference is that we use a pump to get the aquifer up. And I'll give you a data point. Historically, they would have to turn the pumps on once a week or something like that to kind of fill the pond up so it didn't, you know, all get kind of drained out and whatnot. They have to fill the pond up like every 2 days or so, and it's just because of all the muck that we got rid of. It's all kind of infiltrating more. So they're happy that their pond doesn't look like it did just as of last year, you know. But they're burning a little bit more diesel, it's electric. Burning some more energy, filling the pond up every day. Obviously, you folks don't have that problem here, but it's a data point. I mean, it's clear as day what's happening out there, and we're excited to be part of it.
All right, thank you,
I do
Frank.
have
Here's
a
a question from Robert.
Yes. I think you sent over a picture to Kathy. I have it as well. Can we let people see this, and you can just tell us a little bit more, just the time frame of the results for Old Town.
Did you want to
For-
put the picture up,
Yes,
Robin?
please.
If you put it on the
Actually, Frank,
table,
if you
he
put it
can,
on the
he
table
can
under
get
that
the
camera.
camera.
Thank you.
That works.
See the camera there?
And
Yeah. And Sage will
Sage,
take
can
care
I
of it in
ask
the
for your
back.
help, please? Maybe to position it? Oh, great.
Yeah,
It's good right there.
okay, go for it, Sage, let's see.
And,
Oh, there, that's pretty good. Well, actually, move it over a little, there we go.
and if you can talk about the time frame and
Yeah, tell us the
And the
before and after.
interesting part, I think I
So-
read in your papers, was that it started going for the muck faster than you thought. You thought it was going to do the top surface a little sooner, and it started going down lower, which was a pleasant surprise from the
Yeah.
reading. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Well, so these two pictures are a year apart. This is April of last year, and on the top one, and on the bottom is April of this year. And as you can see, what has been fueling these harmful algal blooms is going away. There's none of that anymore. And as far as right, so it would just get, again, we just be careful because we're not doing anything to the algal blooms at all. We're just taking the fuel away, and that's an important distinction to make. So this is just a year apart in terms of how expedient and how it actually works from an. So these bugs exhibit something called chemotaxis. So they go towards a resource. They're motile. They move. They swim towards it. And so at Sands Point Preserve, we first noticed that they, when we discharged them, they kind of settle into that oxygenated layer of muck first. And started absolutely just, eating. They're just a feast for them down there. But before, so they're facultative anaerobes, so which means is that they can survive in oxygenated waters and in waters that don't have oxygen. But they're more efficient when there's oxygen, right? So what they did was they settled on that first oxygenated layer of muck. They went to town on the muck. And then they started migrating up into the water column because that was the next easiest meal for them to get. Then we started seeing very measurable water quality benefits. And then after the fact, they started to, after they kind of cleaned out the water, they went back down to the muck, and now they're kind of working their way into the muck, kind of loosening it up, creating more paths for oxygen to come in, and they're really working at it. And again, it was just by our measurements, we're talking about like 70 dump trucks full of muck in 90 days. I mean, that's, we didn't have to dig it out. We didn't have to stockpile it in the community. We didn't have to have a series of trucks idling on the side of the road. So this is it's restoring nature's balance as opposed to, an engineered solution that would probably be disruptive to the community, like dredging as an example.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from the board?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Frank,
Thank
very
you.
much.
Really good.
Appreciate it. Thank you also, Marshall, for being here. Thank you. Okay, well, at this time, I will go to the public hearings, and we will reopen the public hearing, a local law amending Chapter 107 on trees to regulate the removal of and damage to trees in a required setback. This was remained open from the April 10th meeting. And Eileen, I know we took into consideration comments
We did.
that we have heard from the public, and so maybe you could just discuss the additional changes that we've made to the legislation.
Sure, if anybody picked up a copy, the newest changes are in like a purpley blue color. But essentially, one of the comments was with respect to the replacement of trees. So now we differentiated, oh, they're not color coordinated, oh, sorry. Okay, so this,
These are,
the new law. Oh, the new law is not there, okay. Well, you can get a copy from Kathy Sweeney before you leave tonight. The replacement of trees, so we differentiated between whether the replacement is being required because somebody, as a penalty, because somebody took the tree down without getting the required permit. So for them, it gives the board the latitude to order the replacement of trees, and those trees would be a minimum of the 5-inch by caliper. And then if somebody made an application to take down the trees, the board also has, or their designee has the option of requiring replacement trees, depending on the reason for taking them down, et cetera. And those they reduced because to 2.5 inches by caliber. We had comments here about the expense of putting up a 5-inch caliber tree and the size. And so we took that into account and made that change in there also. That's essentially the big change that is in the code. That's it. really.
Okay, so I'll open the public hearing and welcome any members of the public to speak on this
Sheila, did you
proposed
wanna see
local law.
Okay. That's essentially all we did.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
Sheila Pfeiffer, 56 Hildreth Street. I think this being May, this marks a year since the time I first came before this board. On behalf of a bunch of people from the village, we were quite disturbed by some clear cutting that had happened around the corner from us in the center of the village. This issue went to the Planning Commission. I followed it there, and the Planning Commission developed this law, which now, or whatever it's called, resolution, which now has been amended many, many times. And now it's still here before us. At the last meeting that I was present, when this was commented on, Mr. Simeone said, well, if we wanted to prevent clear cutting, we should have made a law that was going to talk about that. But that was gone into thoroughly by the Planning Commission, and it was determined by them that that law would never be accepted, and that it was in fact really unenforceable. I know that has been a complaint about this resolution too. So all I can say is that everyone's heard my pleas for the benefits of trees. I'm not going to go through them again, but this is a very small step that the village can take to mark the fact that they consider the naturalness and the usefulness of trees to be important within the village. It's within the purview of the village to regulate because it's outside the building envelope, as we've discussed many times. This is only talking about the setback. So even though, to my mind, it's a very minor step, it is a step, and I think it is important, and I urge the board to pass it. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions, or if anyone here doubts that, but thank you.
Thank you. Sheila, anyone? No, I appreciate that. Anyone else wishing to be heard on this topic? Christine, please come forward. Sorry, Christine got her hand up first, Peter.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I just had a question. Is there an existing inventory of village trees?
No, we do not have a full inventory of
Is there going
village
to be one?
trees. I mean, that is a large project, and we have talked about doing that. It's not going to be an inexpensive process because there are thousands of trees on the village right-of-ways and in village parks.
Right, maybe you could ask for some volunteers.
What we've learned, just to,
To identify what they are, I
yeah,
guess.
no, what we've learned is PSE&G has inventories of trees for their own purposes, and we
If they're
are,
in close proximity to telephone lines.
right, so
Wires.
we're talking to them about perhaps using that as a jumping-off point
Oh, yeah,
for,
okay. I just
for an
wondered.
inventory that we might have.
It just seemed it would be helpful to have.
No, we have talked about
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
It's
you know,
not a
then
small
we get into
project, but
this
something
law
that,
with some are
again,
private and some are, you know.
yes, no, exactly, yeah.
'Cause a lot of us don't know if it's like where I live.
Well, if they're
Village
out,
trees,
if-
they don't look like it, but they are.
well, right, if they're out in the village right-of-way, obviously
If
that's
it's a
that's
public
a
works
village
department.
tree.
I think they have an inventory, Public Works.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Peter?
My name is Peter Grealish. I live in Southampton Village, and I am also in the tree business, and I am also on the tree board. I've been been going to the, I haven't gone to, this is the first meeting that I've been to in this sort of round of talks about this new law. The last time that it came up, myself and other people in my industry sort of fought against it, and it kind of just went away, and now we're sort of back to where we were in the past of trying to do this. I think that everybody's being very, sort of trying to balance between making it difficult or trying to make it a little bit easier and compromise. I think what we're trying to do here is compromise a bit, and I think that's a great effort that the board has done to try to keep everybody happy, and I think I think you're doing a great job. In my conversations with just people in the industry, whether they're in a similar industry as myself or homeowners, I would say for the most part, I would say 90% of the homeowners that I speak to about this particular situation, they would vote against it. Okay, so I would say I don't know. I think that people don't even realize that this is being passed, and they either don't. It's not worth their time to come here, and they don't, or they're not even here to do that. But I'm surprised there's not more people, sort of present to, I didn't know about it myself until Gina actually sent me an email today. That's why I'm here. But I don't see it as a huge problem in the village, because all of the trees in the village basically have been planted by the homeowners. This is not a situation, we really don't have any sort of indigenous forest or anything like that, like we do in other parts of the town. So all the trees that homeowners want to remove are trees that they planted or the previous owner planted many, many years ago. And a lot of times they either become actually too big for the property and overpowers the property by either being too close to the house or shading the pool. And they basically want to re-landscape the property to bring it in scale with the size of the property. So I would say that that's where my concern would be, is somebody's ability to get their landscape the way they want to live with it. And somebody else telling them, because it's such a big tree, that's actually why they want to take it down. And you guys are saying the tree is a big tree, so we want to keep it. So there's sort of it's sort of a difficult balance that, again, I think that you're trying to compromise to keep everybody happy, but I'm just trying to, let you know what I've sort of researched in my own conversations with the people, and and I hope you make the right decision on this.
Okay, thank you, Pete. We really appreciate it. And thank you for your work on the tree committee.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Can I just?
Okay, Sheila, yeah, all right, quickly, but yeah, I don't want to do this back and forth,
I know, but it's kind of disappointing that Mr. Gillish didn't know about this, since a year ago, it's been being talked about for a year, and the tree commission people were at the meeting where this was first brought up with the planning commission. Now, maybe you missed that meeting, and I'm sorry you did.
I haven't missed a single meeting.
Well, we discussed it. I was in the room.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
here. So, and I was assured by Christian that the tree people were talking about it, and in fact had given him a lot of input about the bill, which is, and I just want to clarify that this is not about the size of the trees. The trees that are being affected are trees within the setback on a person's property. And the purpose is really just to prevent clear cutting, but this was the only way that the Planning Commission felt the law could be effective and be a first step. So.
Thank you, Sheila. Any other comments from the board at this time?
Well, my position, I think we're over-regulating with this law. We really do not need it. As far as the whole village is concerned, I'll go back to my original comment, although Sheila doesn't agree with me, but there probably should be, and there must be a way, if you want to address clear cutting, that we do address clear cutting, but to go across the board, the whole village, and most of the trees are in the setbacks, to want to regulate that, I think is just going too far.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Otherwise, I think
Make a
at
motion to
this
close?
point, I'll make a motion to close this public hearing. And just to add though, because I heard from Pete, I think we actually first put this on the agenda in February, and we've actually had 3 public hearings. So it was in March, April, and now this is May. So there has been a lot of time that this has actually been open. I'm sorry, Pete, you didn't know about it, and again, I thought definitely that members of the the planning commission would be in communication with you, but I hear this from time to time again that people aren't aware of things going on. I don't know what more I can do, because literally the first time this was on the agenda was at a February agenda, and this has been open now for 3 hearings. And you're right. Look how many people are in the room that want to talk about the tree law. Not too many, but I don't know seriously what more I, as the mayor, can do to try and get people to come and talk if I give them 3 opportunities to talk since February, since March was the first public hearing. Anyway, it's frustrating to me as the mayor, because again, I want public feedback, and yet we have these public hearings, and I have Sheila here quite frequently, although once you were away because you couldn't be here. I know.
I've been here for 11 of these.
I know. So you're very good.
And I can just want to add, it has been reported in the press when the press writes up the board meetings.
Yes, they have mentioned it in the press. So I'm not sure what more I can do. Do you have any other final comments? Okay, all right, thank you. So I'll make the motion to close this public hearing. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in
Second.
favor? Aye. Okay, thank you very much. We now have another public hearing, and this is a proposed local law amending Chapter 116-28, specific types of variances by authorizing a variance with respect to sustainable building requirements and creating a green energy, it should read fund, not fee, green energy fund. I'm going to turn to our counselor here, Eileen Powers, to see if you want to speak about the Green Energy Fund and how it works again, Eileen.
Okay, right. So under Village Code 43-12, we have a requirement that new or substantially reconstructed residents comply with the home energy rating system. And so this local law gives authority to the Zoning Board of Appeals to grant a variance to properties that are required to comply with the HERS rating, but have meet specific criteria about why they cannot meet the HERS criteria on their property. And then it allows them, in lieu of that, to pay into the Green Energy Fund 1.5 times the cost of what they would otherwise be required to put on their property. It would give them a variance, so they don't have to put it on their property, but they would have to pay 1.5 times that into a fund. The idea about the 1.5 times is we don't want everybody running off and putting money into the fund just to avoid putting it on their property, because it's supposed to be contained on their property. But this would allow them, if the board agreed that they met the criteria, and that their property couldn't reasonably accommodate the solar panels or what have you that would be required to meet the HERS rating, they would be eligible to pay 1.5 times the actual cost into a fund that the village would then use to further their green energy initiatives. So that sums it up, I think.
That's very good.
If everybody read it,
Yeah, so at this time, I'll open this public hearing to the public if anyone wants to talk about the proposal of forming a green energy fund. And this is mainly, again, to help homes in the historic district where you might have a historic home and you don't want to add panels to your pitched roof. Also, somebody that has a property with a lot of trees, and the only way that they could put solar on their ground is if they removed a lot of trees, which obviously we're hoping to discourage some of that removal of trees, but it seems a little counterintuitive to remove trees to put up the panels on someone's property. So this was giving another variance to those people, but they would have to then pay 1.5 times what would be the normal cost to the village, which would then have this fund that could be used for future sustainable energy projects. So anyone from the public want to speak?
Where can we get copies of these?
these laws?
Yeah.
Well, it was right from Kathy Sweeney in the clerk's office. I mean, I can make you copies, it's just not this moment. So, yeah, but absolutely.
The clerk will do it, though. Mindy,
Can
definitely.
you print out a couple copies?
No. The clerk will do it. Can you make copies of the local laws for Ms. Fortin? Thank you. Thank you very much.
They're on the agenda packet, which is on it's on the website. But I'll print them for you. No, it's okay, I'll print them. Does anyone else
But-
need copies of the proposal?
But Sheila, did you want to talk all about it?
I just
saw-
wanted to add, just to make it clear that
Sorry.
the fund, the trust fund that's created is the village can only use to further their green energy.
Right, it's restricted, it's restricted.
It's restricted
monies.
money.
Yeah. Sheila,
So sorry.
please come forward.
Okay, now I'm speaking as co-chair of the Environment and Sustainability Committee, which we did discuss this law, this proposed resolution, and we were in agreement that it seemed like a good idea under very carefully regulated circumstances, which I think you are talking about, because we know that the village itself several years ago passed a climate emergency resolution where they took on the pledge of everything we do is supposed to be looking to create net zero, and that's been renewed several times. So we need to remember that the purpose of HERS is to decrease the reliance on fossil fuels. And if this resolution law allows people to just buy themselves out of the HERS regulation, obviously that's not a good thing.
Right.
And I know you're aware of that.
Yes,
but
yes.
I just want to reiterate that is, it needs to be carefully crafted. I haven't looked at the latest law. I looked at the one that came to our committee a month or so ago.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed.
No,
I
it
didn't
hasn't
make any
changed.
changes.
And the applicant does have to go to the zoning board of appeals.
Right.
To get
And
permission.
they would
So
make the
they would have to regulate whether this was really necessary, on an
Right.
individual applicant's property.
And then, of course, on the other side, the village needs to be accountable. The funds need to go into a separate account, and I believe it's going to state that those funds need to be used within 24 months. Now, I don't know if that's still in there, but that's what we discussed at our committee.
In the state code?
And I don't think I heard that. And I don't think our code says that. The proposed code does not say that, I don't think.
Well, I guess in our discussion, we talked about
You
that.
recommended that?
I think so.
All right, well, it
Okay.
has to get to
I have
us
it, I
if you
have it in my
recommend it.
notes here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, we're-
That the village must, as quickly as feasible and no later than 24 months, invest the adopted estimate in new equipment to either generate energy or create efficiencies equal to the energy generation need determined initially. That was
No, that's
the
very
result
helpful.
of our discussion.
Right. Can you
I
send
can
that,
forward
Sheila,
that to you.
to the attorney?
I
please?
can forward
Yeah.
this. This isn't an email that Rob circulated. Rob Coburn, co-chair, couldn't be here tonight, but we had crafted this email that circulated within our committee. Len, you have it too.
I don't recall getting it,
well-
unfortunately.
I think we may have had a discussion, because this would restrict, this would force your hand, and maybe you're not ready to spend money on a particular project. Maybe you don't have enough money for a particular project. If you're forced to use the money within 24 months, you may be just spending it in a less efficient manner. I think that was the discussion. Clearly, the board they're adopting this. They want to see, and they adopted, 4312, which required us to meet the Harris rating. So and the net zero and all of that.
Sheila,
So
at
they
the meeting-
have an incentive to do it. But I would be concerned that you'd be forcing them to spend money before they're ready to on a project that maybe would be
And
better if it
If
was.
I may, I don't remember the two-year limit at all. I do remember the conversation, and I do remember we talked about incrementalism, which was Rob's word, and and I said, we don't have all the answers. We've
Yeah,
never
no.
done this before, so let's not be so tight as to tell us what we can and can't do until we have some experience with the fund.
No, I think maybe the concern is just that there's not going to be, and also, nobody wants there to be a lot of money going into this because we want to see people doing,
Absolutely.
Right, of course.
doing the regular way.
That's
But
what we really want.
But that this just doesn't become some big fund that's sitting there and, you know, we're not getting the benefit of it. So there may be, I mean, I'm not saying you have to put that into the resolution. I'm not saying that right now.
Okay.
But the fact that none of you had thought about that maybe needs to be thought of before the final resolution is crafted, or the final wording.
Right. Well, I understand the point that if, you know, say we receive $200,000, there might not be a specific project for $200,000 that would really make a meaningful difference in the village. So we would want to get additional monies into the fund and say $1 million, and then we would have something that maybe we could use, you know, more efficiently.
Okay, well, just
Yeah.
please
No, I understand. No,
take
thank
it
you for
under
pointing that out.
consideration and, you know, think about that. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Sheila. Thank you always. Any further comments? Any more comments?
I have two comments.
Okay.
And first of all, concerning the criteria, because in reading the proposed law, we're talking about, it is mentioned about aesthetics. So is the criteria physical or also aesthetic? That is, if a homeowner feels that it doesn't look good for the house or does not look historic and therefore is it to the detriment of the historic look. So is this just physical or also aesthetic
No,
as far as the criteria?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, Ed. I mean, again, I know of a house in the village where the only logical place to put them was on the person's yard, but it would necessitate removing these trees. And they said, I really don't want to have to remove all these trees just to put this out here.
That's physical.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the aesthetic, because in
Well, it
reading the
could- it
law,
could-
there's mentioning
right.
about to maintain the aesthetics of
Well,
the historic district.
it could be, because there could be, you know, I certainly don't think we want to see panels on the roof of the Halsey house, right? That would look a little out of place.
Right,
So, I mean, that would be, you know, taken into consideration in
so I
that
would say
situation.
it's pretty easy then to have a reason to not have the solar panels. As Sheila was saying, she wants it to be very specific. Otherwise, for the aesthetics, it's subjective, and it would make it pretty easy in order to get this variance.
Well,
Well, this is sort of a balancing that would be completed by the zoning board of appeals, who does that routinely in applying
That's the way it
variances
works.
to all of, they have series of variances that they do, and they do a balancing test. And one of the things they can consider is whether it's going to create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or anything. So putting them on the roof
Okay.
of the
So
Halsey
can-
house might be
so
something they'll
it's-
consider, but it's not just going to be the sole consideration.
Right, but then
Because
one of the
if they-
criteria is aesthetics.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, and if they had space on their property, I mean, I can think of another house, Ed, in the village that is a very historic house. They didn't want to put it on the roof, but they did put it on, they have a large lawn, they put it on the lawn, and it's perfectly fine. So they did not get out of complying with hers.
Right.
But they didn't have to change the front facade of the house that is an iconic structure here in the village.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other is the use of the funds, because the way I see it written is not only creating a fund to create more, more renewable energy, but actually the funds can be used to pay down the debt, the bond of present costs, present bonds for what we have right now. So I'm just wondering if that's, and Sheila may want to talk about that, because we're not necessarily creating new solar energy, we're just paying off what we already have. So I'm just wondering whether
Well,
that
again, I
criteria
think
is
it
right.
would work to pay down if the village were to take on debt to do a particular project,
we already
knowing
have.
that they could use
We're talking
that.
about.
Well,
we're talking
future
about pro-
projects too, either
Yeah,
way.
Yeah,
It
but we're
could
also
be-
talking about present projects.
Again, it's written to give the board the flexibility and how to apply it, but in any event, it has to be applied for green infrastructure installations
Right.
or servicing the debt on those
Correct.
installations.
Yeah.
So it would not be creating more renewable energy.
Well, it could be, because.
It could be,
the-
but
the
not
board-
necessarily, because it just could be
We
paying
would have the
off.
flexibility to pay
Right.
down existing
I
debt
just want to
now.
make sure that's clear, that's all.
Yeah, but in the future, we could take on new debt knowing we'll get some of this money over time that we can help pay it down
Sure.
with. So it just gives the board flexibility.
Right. Okay. So if there are no further comments, I will make, oh, sorry. On Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Please let them come in.
Coming in right now.
Okay.
Yes, hello?
Yes, hello. Please, if you could state your name and address, that would be great.
Yeah, my name is Tim Shields, and I am in Brooklyn, actually, 388 Parkside Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. I'm an owner's representative for a person building a home in the Village Historic District, and we're interested in this legislation. I wanted to make a couple quick points. If I understand it correctly, all of the other HERS requirements that would go into building a new home must stay in place. Those are not being taken away by.
No, this is not a waiver of requirements.
Right. So they still have the insulation, the air sealing, the Energy Star appliances, everything else is required by HERS. The good windows, that would all stay in place. It would just be, I guess, a variance on the actual installation of solar that would be used to meet the points on the HERS rating scale. And if the funds were used, and with the markup, that is a benefit to the village. I think that would help if larger solar installations were actually made, as opposed to house by house installations. These larger installations can serve to support the kind of industrial size batteries and advanced inverters that can help LIPA do demand response in periods of peak load. So effectively, this money, instead of sort of being spread around the village, which is fantastic and it's still generating energy, it would generate energy, potentially be used to generate energy in ways that would serve to provide increased grid resilience locally and, for the island.
Right.
Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Shields. Did you have anything further you wanted to add?
I think that's pretty much the two things I was hoping to add to the discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for joining us this evening. All the way from Brooklyn, we appreciate it. All right, is there anyone else, Sage?
Nope.
Okay, then at this time, I'll make a motion to close this public hearing of local law amending Chapter 116-28. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Correspondence to the board.
We have no correspondence submitted to the board for this meeting. We
Oh,
do
that's
have.
amazing.
Yeah, we do have someone that signed in to make public comment.
Okay, we'll go to public comment then.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Mr. David Ron.
David Rung, Pleasant Lane. Tonight I'm going to read a sample of comments that appeared in editorials or articles in the Southampton Press. The first one is an editorial called Out of Step, and it addresses the board's reaction to the survey of elected village officials' terms of office, compensation, and health insurance plan participation. So what the editorial says. What was more interesting about the survey findings was how out of step Southampton Village is when it comes to providing health insurance benefits to current and former board members. Only 47% of villages that responded to the survey allow currently serving members to opt into the village's health insurance plan. Even fewer, 22%, pay 100% of the health insurance cost as Southampton Village does. 5 required trustees and mayors to pay 100% of the premiums. In 66% of responding villages, former mayors and trustees cannot participate in the village's insurance plan at all. The village board appears to hope village residents just weren't paying attention to this whole episode. Double term links, no matter what the taxpayer-funded survey says. Keep their benefits for life, no matter what the taxpayer-funded survey says. Next is an article,
Mr. Rung, we're going to stick to the 3 minutes, right?
well, I am,
All right.
but
I mean,
I have a comment about that too, which I hope I won't need.
that's fine.
Next article says, village is an outliers, I'm sorry. Survey shows free benefits for life is unique offering. When it comes to the issue of providing health insurance benefits for elected officials after they retire, Southampton Village proved to be an outlier in many ways. Third is an editorial called Call It What It Is. And this has to do with the tax exemption for historical property improvements. When one property owner is given a tax exemption, even a partial tax exemption, everyone else pays to make up the difference. That's just how tax assessments and tax levies work. In this case, one property owner would dodge an increase in his or her tax bill for years, and other village property owners wouldn't see their own shares lowered as a result. So in essence, that burden is shifted from one person to many. It was baffling to hear Mayor Bill Manger attempt to reframe the exemption as a deferment. A deferment would mean homeowners are being given additional time to pay their taxes, but that they would owe the same amount. The law actually reduces total taxes owed. It is a temporary exemption, but an exemption nonetheless.
Okay, Mr. Rung, I think we're almost at 3 minutes, seriously.
I don't think we're close, but anyhow. To reframe an exemption as a deferment would mean the homeowners are given additional time to pay their taxes, but what they owe stays the same. The actual law reduces total taxes owed. It is a temporary exemption. The first clue is that it is truly an exemption would have been the words, provide a tax exemption for historical property, right there in the title of the property. At last week's Board of Trustees meeting, Manger told Trustee Simeone, go back to business school. A sincerely unfortunate lapse of decorum made all the more lamentable by the fact that it is Manger, in fact, who needs to brush up on the difference between an exemption and a deferment, and the impact exemptions have on the rest of the tax base. And another thing that the press does when it issues candy canes or lumps of coal, a lump of coal to the Southampton Village Board, a board that seems immune to reminders and admonitions to discuss public business fully in public, the way government is meant to operate. For passing notes during the public hearing, during this important hearing, when all the board members should have been apt to what residents in the village were there to say, the mayor was writing a note that was then passed back and forth across the dais among the trustees to read and add their own writing. This kind of behavior flies in the face of the spirit of the open meetings law. In another, this one happens to be gold stars and dunce caps. And this is the dunce cap to Southampton Village for keeping quiet when it should be more communicative. Recently, the board drained Lake Agawam at Old Town Pond to the ocean. Would it have been so difficult in late August, at the peak of the beach season, to have at least posted informational placards to the effect that beaches and to warn families swimming in the ocean that there might not be something they want to risk? Another item, a front page article, Ethics Board criticizes Trustee Brown, free tickets are at the heart of the opinion. And a candy canes and lumps of coal, another lumps of coal, to Southampton Village Trustee Robin Brown for going scorched earth on the village's ethics board. Honestly, the allegations themselves were less concerning than her response when questions were raised. Brown has the right to defend her reputation, but excoriating the volunteer members of the Ethics Board is not the way to do it. And the last item, under an editorial, it says, no excuses. The Southampton Village Board voted 5-0 to increase many of the fees that the building department charges builders and property owners. 2 members of that same village board, Roy Stevenson and Robin Brown, then proceeded to have work done on their properties without building permits. So, voters in June need to consider whether they want individuals who receive these kinds of press comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rung. Any other comments from the public?
There are none.
Oh, Sheila, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't sign up, but.
No, you're allowed to speak. It's public comment.
I wanted to just go back to the presentation about and bioorganic, whatever it is, and bioorganic, sorry. And not to denigrate anything about what they were saying, but, and I wasn't here when they presented before. That was the meeting I missed, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah, they did.
I wanted to know if the board has consulted with the local kind of eminent expert on water, Dr. Gobler, about this new tech process.
We've had some discussions with them, yes.
I mean,
We've been speaking with him about this for about 5 years.
okay,
He knows
because
all about it.
I'm just kind of curious as to why then, if it's been, especially if it's been 5 years, this hasn't come up in regard to Lake Agawam and all the stuff that's been going on there. Why are we suddenly talking about something, completely different for Old Town? If Professor Gobler had known about this and thought it was great.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Okay, wait, we can't get into back and forth with the audience here. Okay.
I just want to urge the board to make sure that they've consulted, there's been a lot of work done on water quality, obviously.
Oh, yes.
And I did have a question, which is when is the algae harvester still going to be installed for Lake Agawam, and if so, when?
Yes, we are working on we actually did finally get the DEC permit, just actually, I think, 2 days ago. And we are working on finalizing the contracts with, actually.
For the funding. We don't have the funding in place for that yet. So we're negotiating with the town CPF and the federal EPA on funding.
Yeah.
I
So
just
that's
didn't
a
know,
holdup there.
I thought the vote that we took in November was the final thing.
No, that was just
That's a hurdle.
to use that CPF property for placement of the algae harvesters. But again, we were still actually waiting to get a DEC permit, which actually we just got 2 days ago, literally.
I would note, just because I'm the one doing a lot of the contracts and going through the numbers, that this project for N Bioorganics the cost is about 3% of the algae harvester cost. And I don't know, it's probably on par with the permeable reactive barrier project in Lake Agawam. So this is if this works,
I'm
it's going
not
to be.
criticizing the
Yeah.
project, I'm just
Yeah.
questioning why.
Just saying, if it works, we don't have to, one person does not get to decide what's good for water quality in the village. So we're open to, the board's open to discussing different technology, and this is a different technology.
And I commend them for that. I
Yes.
just want to make sure that due diligence has been done, because this water quality thing has been going on for a long,
That is correct.
long
For sure.
time.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I read the Sands Creek, I read what Robin brought to our committee about the Sands Creek, Sands Point
Preserve.
Preserve, and as they said, it's less than a year in operation.
Right.
So it's just a question of,
Right.
it may be well worth
Absolutely.
the money to try
Yep.
it out. I'm not saying
Yeah.
necessarily it's not, but I do think it needs to be diligently looked into.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Sheila. We all are in agreement with that. If, actually, what the DEC does request of us before they consider going to the permit is quite intensive. And for that question, I will ask Frank or Marshall to speak about the different doctors that are part of your team and what they do. Sheila is quite interested, and we're happy to answer those things because we're all excited about this.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
just briefly, it's a team of experts who've been doing this for quite some time. A chemical engineer with 40 years of working on water quality issues, bacterial consortiums that have been literally curated for over that 40-year career is the bacteria consortium that we're using. In addition to it, Malcolm Burbank has literally 3 PhDs. Microbiology, chemical, and I'll have to defer to his CV, but the guy, yeah, yeah, and we've been, and it's worth noting in terms of diligence. Marshall and I had access to this technology for quite some time, and until we did the pilot project at Sands Point Preserve and saw the results with our own eyes, we didn't say a word to anybody. So this has been, we've been diligently monitoring the work that we've been doing. And Dr. Gobler, who we respect greatly, has not said anything negative about it at all or impeached any of the scientific rigor behind the work that we're doing. And I'd be, happy to have further discussion with the board or Dr. Gobler. So thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Okay, unless there's anyone else on Zoom, Sage, that would like to speak for public comment. All right, then I see the chairman of the Planning Commission is here. Did Mr. Pico wish to say anything? Okay. Then we will move on. We'll close public comment, and we'll move on to suggested resolutions. So why don't we start with Len with number 1, please.
Number 1, resolve the claims for the warrant dated May 8th, 2025, totaling $957,175, warrant number A23 General, $796,276.06, warrant number H12 Capital, $4,676.34, warrant number T2 Trust, and $17,747.59, warrant number A24 Utility are audited and approved, and I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Number 2, resolve the reading of the minutes for the April 22nd, 2025 Board of Trustee meeting is dispensed, accepted as filed by the village clerk, and all actions taken at said meeting are hereby ratified. I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, whereas the Village of Southampton recognizes the need to utilize new technologies in an effort to help improve the water quality in our lakes and ponds, and whereas Bioorganic Technologies, hereafter Bioorganics, has proposed a project to restore the ecological structure and function of Old Town Pond by treating the nutrient pollution and sediment overlaid in Old Town Pond through the bioaugmentation of Clostridium of probiotic Bacillus bacteria, and whereas Bioorganic Technologies has initiated a similar project in the village of Sands Point in the town of North Hempstead, with some promising results, and whereas the village of Southampton has undertaken 2 different projects utilizing 2 different technologies in Lake Agawam in an effort to address the excess nitrogen in that water body, and whereas the village of Southampton is interested in pursuing this project utilizing Bioorganic Technologies in Old Town Pond, if Bioorganics is able to secure the needed permits from the New York State DEC, whereas Bioorganic Technologies has agreed to obtain the necessary permits from the New York State DEC at their own expense, and whereas the Village of Southampton has agreed to conduct the secret review for this proposed. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton has determined that this proposed project is classified as an unlisted action underneath 6 NYCRR Part 617.4 provisions of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act (SECRA). Now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby authorizes a notice of intent to serve as a lead agency for a coordinated SECRA review to other involved agencies, specifically the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the trustees of the freeholders and the community of the town of Southampton. Do I have a motion?
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, whereas the Village of Southampton Board of Trustees has determined that the items listed below be deemed surplus, and whereas the Village Board is authorizing the Superintendent of Public Works to surplus items to Gershow Recycling Corporation, now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees has declared the following items surplus: 3 16-inch push lawn mowers, LG walk-behind power vac, a Yardman rototiller, Easy Bead paint sprayer, a John Deere Gator, and Mighty Mac gas push leaf blower. We don't want the leaf blower, so we're going to get rid of it. So I'll make the motion. Anyone second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
5, whereas the Southampton Village Building Department has sought to update its department's software, Municity, to Municity 5, a web-based interface that enhances functionality such as advanced analytics and reporting, and whereas the proposal received from ICC Community Development Solutions for Municity 5 for the first year, including installation and training, is a total cost not to exceed $79,210. And whereas the senior building inspector has identified additional scope of work not included in the original proposal that will increase the proposal cost by $1,500, now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor and senior building inspector to sign the contracts with ICC Community Development Solutions for a total project cost not to exceed $80,710, subject to the approval of the village attorney. And be it further resolved, the Village Board of Trustees authorizes the Treasurer's Office to make the following budget adjustment. Increase A1560 Public Safety, building inspection fees in the amount of $80,710. Increase A3620.44 Building Department, contractual services in the amount of $80,710. I'll make the motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, whereas the Southampton Village Clerk has reviewed multiple software programs that will assist the village in the receipt and processing of FOIL requests, and whereas next request, a module of the Civic Plus software currently in use by the Village of Southampton submitted a proposal, and whereas the Village Clerk and the Board of Trustees has determined that the proposal from Next Request will best provide needed enhancement of the FOIL request process and help improve response time, and whereas the proposal received from Next Request for their first year, including installation and training, is a total cost not to exceed $9,591. Now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor and village clerk to enter into a contract with Next Request for a total project cost not to exceed $9,591, subject to the approval of the village attorney. I will make the motion. Is there a second?
Discussion?
Yeah.
I'd just like to make some comments. I would like to extend my thanks to our village administrator and our village clerk for their support and helping move this initiative forward. Tonight marks an important step towards improving transparency in village government, something I've long discussed and pushed to achieve. Over the past year, I've been encouraging the village to adopt technology to modernize how we handle Freedom of Information law requests. I'm pleased that the board will authorize a rollout of a new FOIL management system that integrates with our existing Civics Plus platform. This new technology would not only improve our internal workflow, but more importantly, it will make information more accessible to the public. It will track FOIL requests in real time, make previously requested information searchable by others, and allow the public to see how well the village is complying with state-mandated response timelines. By making this process more visible and user-friendly, we are reinforcing our commitment to the letter and the spirit of the law. Anyone who submits a FOIL will now have access to the same information others have already requested, without needing to duplicate their efforts. This not only saves time and resources, but fosters a culture of openness and accountability. I'm proud to have led the charge on this initiative and look forward to working with our team to make sure it's implemented quickly and effectively, and I thank the board for proposing and going forward with this improvement.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Whereas the village workers' compensation policy expires with compliance on May 31, 2025, and whereas the village has received an updated proposal from Compliance which, due to the village's record of a safe workplace, included a reduced coverage rate. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor to sign a 2-year renewal of the village's workers' compensation policy with Compliance at a reduced rate resulting in an annual savings of $61,656.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion. So, Scott, could you just explain a little bit how the village has done so well and that we are going to realize a savings of over $60,000?
Yeah, largely it's based on past performance. In other words, how many claims have you had in the previous year with reference to workplace injury? If there has been injuries, what kind of steps have you taken to make sure that you mitigate them so they don't happen again? We do have incidents reports. In those incidents reports, not only do you report what had happened and how you hurt yourself, but then usually a supervising department or someone would write down what they did to make sure that the employees are going to learn from that and make sure that they don't get hurt again. At any rate, as a result of those and the accumulation of that type of work over time, our claims rates have gone down. And when claims rates go down, insurance companies look at you and say, you know what, you're a better risk, we're going to give you a break. It gets down to that.
And it's great that our Department of Public Works, again, is taking workplace safety seriously and avoiding accidents and injury, especially since now it's going to realize a savings to the village. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'd also like to note that this record is not only, a quality of life improvement for our employees, but it represents about a 7% reduction in our premium, which is pretty significant. So 61,000, it's a nice chunk of wood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zananti. You're next.
I am. Whereas the village requires a GASB 75 analysis to be used to complete the other post-employment benefit disclosure on the village's May 31, 2025 financial statements, and whereas the village has received a proposal from Sound Actuarial Consulting to prepare the analysis at a cost not to exceed $9,400, now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby approves and authorizes the mayor to sign the proposal from Sound Actuarial Consulting to perform the analysis and prepare the reports at a cost not exceeding $9,400. And I'll make that motion.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Whereas the Southampton Village Dog Park Committee was created by the Village Board of Trustees to provide assistance to the village with the management and control of the Southampton Village Dog Park located at 205 Windmill Lane Dog Park, and whereas the Southampton Village Dog Park Committee has advised the village that certain work, including the pruning, installation, and fertilization of trees is necessary for the continued enhancement of the dog park, and whereas the Village of Southampton has received donations specifically for the upkeep and enhancement of the Southampton Village Dog Park, and whereas the village obtained quotes for the work requested by the Southampton Village Dog Park Committee, and whereas Jackson Dodds and Company has been selected to perform the work estimated to cost $4,000, now therefore be it resolved that to the extent sufficient donated funds are available, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton hereby authorizes the Mayor, William Manger, to enter into a contract, subject to the approval of the village attorney, with Jackson Dodds and Company for the following services: the pruning of 5 trees located at the Southampton Village Dog Park, located at 205 Windmill Lane, Southampton, New York, at a cost of $4,000. I make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby accepts from Southampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue, 501c3, their donation of a 2025 Yamaha VX Cruiser, number US-YAMA 3048B525, with an estimated value of $15,744. For the exclusive rights of use by Southampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue in support of its emergency operations patrols, training programs, open water events, and other mission-related activities. The trustees extend their appreciation for this generous donation. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the Board of Trustees accepts the donation from Diabetes Research Institute in the amount of $1,000 to be used towards the fire department's operating budget, now therefore be it resolved, the budget is hereby amended to reflect the donation as follows. Increase A.2703, gifts and donations in the amount of $1,000. Increase A.3410.2, fire department equipment in the amount of $1,000. So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the monarch butterfly, an iconic North American species whose multi-generational migration and metamorphosis from caterpillar to butterfly has captured the imagination of millions of Americans, and whereas in recent years there has been a precipitous decline in the monarch butterfly population, and whereas the village of Southampton is on the monarch butterfly migratory path, and every resident can make a difference for the monarch population by planting native milkweed and nectar plants to provide habitats for the monarch and pollinators in location where people live, work, learn, and play. And whereas the mayor, on behalf of the village of Southampton, previously executed the National Wildlife Federation's Mayor's Monarch Pledge, confirming Southampton Village's commitment to support these initiatives. And whereas the village would like to create a public reminder of and further confirm the village's commitment to supporting the monarch butterfly population, now therefore be it resolved, the alleyway between numbers 68 and 70 Job's Lane shall henceforth be known as Monarch Alley. I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And there's going to be an opening there on the 17th of May, which everyone is invited to.
Number 13, resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the appointment of Andrew K. Preston, Esquire of Be Ready Law Group, LLP, to serve as election counsel to the village clerk in support of village election matters on Friday, June 20th, 2025, effective May 1, 2025. I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees accepts the letter of resignation for employee 4885, effective May 10, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the Southampton Little League to host their closing day festivities at Downs Family Park for their 2025 spring baseball and softball season on Saturday, May 31st, 2025 at 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Food trucks are authorized, and the SLL is responsible for maintenance and waste disposal at the event's end. I will make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the Southampton Intermediate School to host an 7th grade day at Cooper's Beach on Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. I make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the Southampton Intermediate School to host an 8th grade day at Cooper's Beach on Wednesday, June 25th, 2025 from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. I make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the temporary closure of narrow lane from Hampton Road to Wickapogue Road for the Southampton High School commencement ceremony on Friday, June 27th, 2025 from 4:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. I make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the beach event application for Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance at Fowler Beach on Saturday, July 26, 2025, from 6:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. for 100 guests. Parking exception letters will be provided and prominently displayed on vehicles during the event. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the request submitted by the Southampton Cultural Center to host a concert in collaboration with the Southampton Youth Bureau in Agawam Park on Thursday, August 7th, 2025, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., with the rain date on Thursday, August 14, 2025. I make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, at this time, I would like to make a motion for a walk-on of one resolution in regards to the PBA contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, I will read the resolution. Whereas the village was a party to a collective bargaining agreement with the Southampton Village Police Benevolent Association Incorporated, the PBA, which expired on May 31st, 2024, and whereas authorized representatives of the village and the PBA have negotiated a tentative memorandum of agreement for the term June 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2028, which is subject to ratification by the membership of the PBA and by the village trustees. And whereas the membership of the PBA has ratified the tentative agreement, and whereas the trustees have reviewed the terms of the tentative agreement, and the Board of Trustees approved said agreement, now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees ratifies the memorandum of agreement with the PBA for the period June 1, 2024 through May 31, 2028, and upon incorporation of the memorandum of agreement into a successor collective bargaining agreement, authorizing the mayor to execute the collective bargaining agreement covering the term June 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2028. So I'll make a motion,
I'll second it.
and there's a discussion. So this was something that took several months to get to, but I'm very pleased that we were able to reach an agreement. I'm also very pleased to announce that the entire membership of the PBA voted unanimously to accept this contract. And so I'm very pleased about that. And maybe I could share a few parts of this contract. Obviously, in any agreement, no side gets everything that they want, but I think this was a very fair agreement, and the village is going to be able to do some things that we have not been able to do in a while. So we've reached this new agreement, and I want to extend my thanks to the Board of Trustees and to Chief Hurto and the men and women of the department who provide such excellent service to our community. This agreement is one that is beneficial to the members of the department and the public. It provides fair wage increases similar to those negotiated by other local governments for their police and secures some important changes sought by the village and the chief to provide long-term savings and improve efficiency. With respect to controlling costs, this agreement for the first time places a limit on the amount of vacation time newly hired officers can be paid for upon their retirement. Large payouts for accumulated leave time have had a negative financial impact on the village. Under this agreement, newly hired officers may be paid for only 75 days upon separation. In some cases in past years, the payouts were for hundreds of days. This change will begin to control these costs. Vacation time is important, and the village wants its employees to utilize the time and avoid large payouts, but it is important that vacation time be scheduled in such a manner that it does not result in staff shortages or excessive overtime during the busy summer months when the village is packed. For that reason, the new agreement limits the amount of total leave time that can be utilized during the summer for improving staff and control overtime costs. The village has also secured some new management rights in this agreement. The prior collective bargaining agreement precluded the village from evaluating police officers. Evaluations are very important and are required to maintain the police department's status as an accredited agency. That status results in lower costs, insurance costs, and ensures that the services provided are in accordance with best practices. Evaluations are a valuable and essential tool needed to ensure that officers are apprised of how they are performing. The agreement now allows the chief to implement an evaluation program for the first time in many years. This was an important issue for the village, and we are very pleased to have regained this right of management. Another area of concern that has led to litigation between the village and the PBA is secondary employment by police personnel. Under the prior administration, the village's code of ethics provision on outside employment were changed without negotiations. The PBA objected to this, and rightly so, and filed a legal challenge. The new agreement resolves that litigation and places additional restrictions on newly hired police personnel to prevent them from providing security services within the village for certain events. Changes in this area were recommended by outside consultants, and the compromise reached was a very fair one. As is often the case in negotiations, neither side got everything they sought, but the agreement resulted in meaningful change for the village, while providing fair wage increases to the members of the department. The village now has settled labor contracts with each of its unions throughout this fiscal year. We are all pleased that this contract is now settled. And I want to, again, thank Michael Horstman and Dave Chorchak, the leaders of the PBA, for their diligence in working with the village to come to this successful resolution for all parties. So with that, I made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. So that's very good. Now we will go to comments from board members, and we will start with Trustee Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Frank and Marshall from EnviroOrganic for coming back and going through a little bit more detail. Sometimes we need time to digest things, and the board had some time to digest things, and as well as our residents. And we thank you. I know you said you would make yourself available for having any more questions. So I want to just thank you. This has been a passion project. It's delightful to see how the DEC has recognized, not just the possibilities, but actually what is happening, the data, the fact that these things are happening. And no longer do I have to say, if we could imagine what something would be like. Now we know what things can be like. Now we know that, your grandson might be able to swim in Old Town Pond sooner than you think there, my friend. And I just want to thank you so very much for making yourself available. This is a village that has different committees, and I'm sure you might be invited into some of the committees to tell a little bit more. But this is an exciting time where biotechnology has proven itself. Where else can we do something that we don't have to dredge, we don't have to be disruptive, and not just to mention that it is cost effective, scientifically proven, and welcoming and harmless to our environment. So we thank you. I thank the DEC for working. I thank all of my trustees for listening and voting for this to go forward with SECRA. And we're just excited, and I'm sure the village is too, of looking forward to having a healthy pond soon. So thank you, trustees. I appreciate that. And good night.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to Trustee Simeoni.
Yes. I'd like to reaffirm what Trustee Brown said. I think this type of biotechnology is really a great improvement, a step forward to bringing the environment back to where it should be. So I really thank you for bringing this to the forefront. It's very, very important, and it'll make a big difference, I think. Apart from that, Habemus Papam. Today is a day of celebration for Catholics everywhere. We have a new Pope, Leo XIV, invoking a message of peace. We have another day of celebration this week, Mother's Day. A special thank you to all of our mothers. Happy Mother's Day. On a very sad note, Jaden Pepitone, age 25, passed away this week. He was one of our lifeguards at Cooper's Beach, and we should remember him. In the obituary in the press, the family wrote, "We hope Jaden will be remembered as a faithful, smart, and sensitive young man who deeply loved his family and friends. His kindness, humor, and quiet strength will stay with all who knew him." Peace to him.
Thank you, Trustee Simeoni. Trustee Stevenson.
Mayor, I'm sorry to say that something's happened with the pond, or whatever, and my head feels like it's in a vice, so I'm going to refrain from speaking this evening.
Okay, sure.
But I wish.
Trustee Zananti.
Thank you, Mayor. With respect to the cell tower project, the land use process has begun. So the planning board met on Monday night, May 5th, and started the process for constructing the cell tower. The architect review board is scheduled for Monday, May 12th, and the zoning board of appeals is scheduled for next Tuesday, May 13th. So it's exciting to see that that process has started, and a special thanks to the Planning Commission chair, who was very instrumental in getting this off the ground. With respect to the traffic pilot, It ultimately appears to have proved pretty successful in diverting traffic from our residential streets by keeping the traffic flowing effectively on Route 39 westbound in the afternoon and early evening. We've already started to talk to the town about its viability and how to possibly implement this permanently in the future. And lastly, I was happy to be at Arbor Day, which was held at Our Lady of Hamptons last Friday, where the students, under the supervision of Sister Kathy, were able to help us plant a fairly large new tree that was donated by a very generous resident. And with that, I will say goodnight.
Thank you, Trustee Zananti. Yes, so in addition to Arbor Day, I hope people have noticed that the bioswales have finally been planted at Cooper's Farm, at the front of the U.S. Postal Office, and Bowdoin Square. Also, the bioswale that has been in existence at Windmill Lane and Nugent Street has gotten additional plantings to make it look a lot better. And I really do think it's greatly improved. So I hope people take note of that when they round that corner. I have been working with the Shinnecock Nation to talk about cleaning up Hetty Creek. It's a body of water that we both share. The village on the east side, the nation on the west side. We have been meeting and discussing a joint application for grant funding to help clean up that body of water. The nation has a lot of shellfish that are out in that area of Hetty Creek, and at this point, the village needs to upgrade our stormwater runoff from Hill Street that ends up in Hetty Creek. So we're going to be working with the nation on a joint grant application so that we can, get monies to remediate that situation. I do want to mention, speaking of, again, bodies of water, I received just today a letter from the Environmental Protection Agency, and I'll just read it quickly. Dear Mr. Manger, on behalf of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, I'm writing to express our appreciation to you and the Village of Southampton for hosting the E-Enterprise Leadership Council's spring meeting in April. I want to personally thank you, as well as Dan Levy and Tammy Kars-Riddick, for taking time out of your busy schedules to share information on the algae harvesting project at Lake Agawam. We appreciated learning about the issue at hand, the technology being used to mitigate harmful algae blooms, and touring the project site. This effort showcases the power of collaboration and innovation as you partner across sectors to achieve a common goal to improve the water quality and restore the lake for the community. The agency looks forward to our continued partnership as we strive to support communities in our shared mission of protecting the public's health and environment. And that was from Stefan Martian, the Director of the Office of Planning and Performance at the Environmental Protection Agency. Further, I would like to make the public aware that there is actually a new pastor at St. John's Church on South Main Street. It's Jeremy Carlson. He comes from Mountain Brook, Alabama. And yes, he does have an accent, but it was very nice to meet him for his first service at St. John's last Sunday, and really welcome him to the community and to, again, the other faith leaders we have in our village. And hope others will be able to meet him soon. He has a wife and two daughters. One daughter is about to enter college. The other daughter is going to be going to school here on the East End. And again, I just wanted to make everyone aware that we have a new pastor in our midst, and he's your neighbor, Christian, and we should be welcoming of him. He's never lived north of the Mason-Dixon line, so it's going to be a little interesting. I do want to just mention that we did get to pave the eastern half of Hampton Road with new striping for bike lanes and turning lanes. It's much more efficient, and the lanes were slightly narrowed to slow the speed of cars down on that very busy road, which is actually part of the Montauk Highway. And again, National Grid is still working on hooking up the businesses on the western part of Hampton Road, and so that will not be paved until later on. But I said we had waited long enough for the eastern half, so we got that done. And I hope people noticed that we have the new stoplight pole installed at Main Street and Job's Lane. Glad that that is now in after, I believe, almost 5 years. Your wife will be very glad, Christian. She's mentioned this to me on multiple occasions. There is still more work to be done, but again, the new pole will mean that we don't have to have the lights swinging on wires across the intersection. I'm hoping next week, again, the lights will be moved to the new pole and the wires will be taken down, making that corner much more attractive. I've been attending meetings with Trustee Simeone for the 4th of July parade. The 4th of July parade is looking for people to help with volunteering as well as donations. To date, the parade has taken in just shy of $22,000, and that is below where we were at this time last year. So we really need to encourage members of the public to please step up and contribute to that parade because it is run on donations and not additional monies from the village. And so, again, I'm hoping everyone that hears me will consider making a donation to that parade. And we're working diligently with the past committee to get some new committee members in there so that we can reinvigorate that committee and make sure that we have a very successful parade this year. But more importantly, we want to make sure we have a huge parade next year for the 250th anniversary of the United States. So we really need to help get them back on track, and anyone that wants to donate their time or their treasure is certainly appreciated. This weekend, there is a spring fair at the History Museum on Saturday afternoon, and the newly reopened Playhouse is going to have a special Gary Cooper weekend because of the fact that Gary Cooper spent time in the summer in Southampton Village. And I think it's going to be great that they're going to be hosting at least 3 movies, High Noon, I'm trying to remember the other names.
Pride of the Yankees.
Pride of the Yankees, and there's a third one that they're going to be showing on Saturday. And so I would encourage people to go see some great old classic films.
Mayor, he's actually buried in the village.
He's actually buried in the cemetery just north of the village. That's correct. Thank you. And actually, here's a little aside. So his wife is in the middle, and she has Gary Cooper, her first husband, on one side, and Dr. John Converse, her second husband, on the other side. So she has both husbands next to her in repose. And I actually remember his widow when she was married to Dr. Converse, and they lived on the corner of Pond Lane. And because he was a doctor, he was a friend of my father's, and we used to go over and see them. And my father said, "This woman was married to Gary Cooper." And he thought that was a big deal. It was pretty cool. Anyway, so I would encourage people to go to the movies this Saturday. And as I mentioned, with the naming of Monarch Alley on May 17th at 5 o'clock, the business at number 68 is going to have a little soiree, a little party, and all are welcome to attend. And then later that same day, I've been asked by Gary Spangler, one of our volunteer firemen, to cut the ribbon at Namiro, the new restaurant that is going into where Bamboo was. And Namiro is being brought to this village by the same owners that have Sen in Sag Harbor. I know a lot of people know Sen in Sag Harbor, great restaurant. So this is going to be another branch of their business right here in the village of Southampton. And I do want to say that I did tell him I wish he would come to Southampton, and he worked it out with Gary Spangler, and they're going to open up this summer. So I'm happy to cut the ribbon on May 17th at 7 o'clock. And then there is a school vote on May 20th at the intermediate school in the music room. I would encourage those, again, to do their civic duty and vote on the school vote May 20th. And with that, I will conclude with Happy Mother's Day, and thank you all for coming.
Bill.
And we have to actually go to executive session to discuss some legal and contractual matters. So I have to ask members of the public to please exit at this time. But thank you very much for being here. Do I have a second on going to executive session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.